The MG4 redefines its brand and redefines what customers should have to pay for a cutting-edge, compact 5-seat EV family hatchback. It probably won't be on your wish list if you're currently looking for a car of this kind. It should be. For the first time in its long history, MG is a proper mainstream player. Proper in terms of sales, it's currently outselling brands like Mini, Skoda and Land Rover, and proper in terms of product, or at least in terms of this one, the MG4. The company calls this compact, full EV hatch a disruptor, offering much more for much less, and that's exactly what it is. For less than the cost of an EV supermini, here's an all-electric family car that makes similarly priced rivals look hopelessly overpriced. With new Chinese-era MGs of the past, there would have been a caveat to come at this point, or several. Cheap build quality, dull road manners, naff interior plastics, and in the case of an EV, feeble driving range. None of which, on paper at least, seem to apply to the MG4, the first of several future models from the brand to use the sophisticated, all-new Modular Scalable Platform that in coming years will transform what we can expect from the marque. If you're about to sign for a Volkswagen ID3 or a Kia Niro EV, stop and watch this film first. The usual thorough car and driving road test. There's no key or starter button, and thankfully, unlike some other Far Eastern models, no silly chimes either. Once you're comfortable in the seat, you just press the brake and the car comes to life. This is the first in a series of new era MG models that ride and handle at a similar level to pricier volume brand competitors. Being able to base everything on properly modern underpinnings helps, in this case the brand's freshly developed Modular Scalable Platform. But there's more to the engineering here than that. A slender battery pack that occupies almost the whole wheelbase length, a compact rear-mounted motor and perfect 50-50 weight distribution. To start with, there's a choice of two powertrains, both of which put out 250 Newton meters of pulling power. The base 51 kilowatt-hour version has a 170 PS motor, manages 218 miles of range and makes 62 miles an hour from rest in 7.5 seconds. Ideally, you'll want to stretch to the 64 kilowatt-hour version, which has a 203 PS motor, is a fraction slower to 62 miles an hour, 7.7 seconds, but goes 281 miles between charges, or 270 miles if you opt for the plusher but portlier trophy trim spec. If that's not really enough for you, then wait until MG introduces the extended range model, which has a larger 77 kilowatt-hour battery and targets 329 miles of range. For the future, a dual motor all-wheel drive performance hot hatch model is planned, which will be the fastest MG in history, with 443 brake horsepower and a sub 5 second 0 to 62 mile an hour sprint time. We hope MG does something about the steering feedback by the time it introduces that car, because there isn't much of that here. Which is a shame, because in most other respects this car feels really quite sporty. As promised, that new chassis helps the car feel taut and responsive, and though the ride's on the firm side, it's something that you could live with, and it gives you the feel that this MG would be up for a few playful back roads if you could afford the battery range to let it have its head. Do that and you'll find decent body control, eager traction, and not too much evidence of the portly near 1.7 tonne curb weight. It's easily the most entertaining MG to date. You'd expect various drive modes and settings, and sure enough, this MG provides them. There are 5 driving modes: normal, sport, eco, snow and custom, and 4 selectable regenerative braking settings: weak, medium, strong and adaptive. The fiercest of these doing 80% of braking for you. Annoyingly, there's no dedicated button for the drive modes, nor are there paddles for the regen settings, so you have to fiddle with small virtual buttons buried in the menus of the center screen to access all the various options, which is also necessary if you're to turn off the constant beeping from the lane departure warning system. All this gives you the feeling that MG is still getting to grips with some of the technology demanded of a modern EV like this. It's all there though. For the money, you're getting a very complete package indeed. Did you ever imagine an MG might look like this? More to the point, did you ever imagine an ordinary family hatchback might look like this? Like us, you might wonder whether a humble EV limited to 100 miles an hour really needs the downforce of a twin-aero rear spoiler, but hey, why not? That's a feature limited to this top trophy spec, as is the strobe-patterned rear centre light bar, which will illuminate your MG4 distinctively as you search for it in the Tesco car park on a wet Friday night. Think of this car as a Chinese take on a Volkswagen ID3 and you won't be far off the mark. The two EVs are similar in size, and if anything, the MG4 looks more contemporary, almost Cupra-like, with its floating roof, heavily sculpted black lower bodywork, short rear overhangs and intricate rear light clusters. It's also the first MG model with badging referencing its SAIC conglomerate parent in the side of the rear light unit. The insectoid looks could do with a larger set of wheels than the standard 17-inch rims to set them off, but aesthetically that's about it on the debit side. Flip the key fob and the projector LED headlamps spring into life, welcoming you in. What's in store inside? Something very different is the answer. It feels minimalist, uber modern, and a whole generation on from anything MG has previously ever offered us before. At first glance, there's a curious and slightly over large steering wheel, flat topped and bottomed, through which you view a 7-inch instrument screen, plus a centre floating 10.25-inch infotainment display, and not a lot else. The interior look lacks the bright and cheery feel of an ID3, and you could nitpick about some aspects of plastics quality, but overall the design here lacks little in either ambition or execution. Apart from the rotary drive selector and the accompanying electronic parking brake switch, the only physical dash controls are a row of buttons beneath the central screen. The far left one brings up a climate screen that requires far too much of your attention away from the road in order to perform simple temperature tasks. As we've said before, systems like these represent a step backwards in cabin ergonomics. We're not especially keen on these unmarked toggle steering wheel controls either, though you'd probably get used to them in time. Apart from that though, unless you object to the rather dark, dour feel and the rather basic design of the square twin screens, one writer thought they looked like they were sourced from a Radio Shack fire sale, there's little else to object to. Stretch to this top-of-the-range trophy version, as many customers will, and you're properly spoiled too. Check our Market and Model Range section for information on that. A few more words on those screens. The instrument one isn't particularly configurable and seems rather over-cluttered with information, with speed and range in the centre, drive assist features on the left, and selectable data readouts on the right. This large centre screen could do with a clearer interface too, the homepage being one of those that you can split into customisable widgets. Here we've got charging, weather, radio and navigation. A shortcut right-hand column connects you quickly through to nav, music, phone and vehicle functions. Apart from the rather narrow door bins, storage provision's decent. You get a deep stowage bin beneath the central armrest with a netted pouch ahead of it, plus a covered drawer between the seats and twin cup holders above which you'll find a 12-volt socket and a USB-A port. There's also a properly sized glove box and a tray for your smartphone, which with this top spec version includes a charging mat. MG's remembered a sunglasses compartment too. You might find it annoying that there's no way of turning the car off should you wish to park up and remain in it. The only way of powering the MG4 down is to get out and lock it. Let's gain access again and take a look in the back. A great benefit of EV drivetrain packaging is the way that it usually frees up surprising amounts of rear seat legroom, which is again the case here. Even a 6-foot adult wouldn't have too many complaints in this case. Look carefully and you'll see that subtle cost-saving choices have been made. The lack of a central armrest and an overhead grab handle, for instance, but you're more likely to notice the absence of an obstructive centre tunnel. And the smart blue upholstery stitching is also quite nice. Plus there are reasonably sized bins in the doors and seat back stowage. Usefully, there are also 2 more pockets higher up for smartphones, and down here a socket from which to charge them with a cubby just below. Out back, the tailgate rises to reveal a 363 litre boot that looks reasonably sized but is 22 litres smaller than that of a rival Volkswagen ID3. Still, there are small netted side pockets, plus the practical shaping means you can make good use of what's available, and there's an adjustable height floor under which you can conveniently store the charging cables. No room is provided further down for any sort of spare wheel though, so as with most EVs, in the event of a puncture, you'll be stuck at the side of the road with a pump and a tin of sealant. There's no room for the carriage of lengthy items if the back seat is occupied, because MG provides neither a ski hatch or a flexibly split backrest. Flatten that and up to 1,177 litres of capacity is freed up. Unlike some other EVs, MG doesn't provide you with any extra storage space beneath the bonnet. From the launch of this car and at the time of this test in autumn 2022, prices started from around £26,000, which gets you the MG4 EV in base SE form, a variant available with either standard range or, for £1,500 more, long-range batteries. The top trophy version, around £31,500, only comes in long-range form. Now, these figures might sound a lot if you're not familiar with EV pricing these days, but they represent a massive saving on segment rivals and also undercut smaller EVs too. The key segment rival, Volkswagen's ID3, starts at around £37,000, as does a Kia Niro EV. Even in a much smaller Vauxhall Corsa electric supermini costs around £31,000. That was at the time of this test. You could also consider a Nissan Leaf, priced from around £29,000 at the time of this test. But the usual 39 kilowatt-hour version of one of those takes you only 168 miles between charges, about 50 miles less than an MG4. Most EV customers buy with finance, and there things look even better. The volume MG4 SE long-range model would, at launch, require £300 a month from you for a 3-year, 30,000-mile package after a £4,000 down payment. Compare that to £564 a month for a rival Volkswagen ID3, or £417 a month for a smaller Renault Zoe, and £430 a month for a smaller Vauxhall Corsa Electric. You get the idea. There are big savings to be had here. As advertised, this truly is disruptive pricing. It isn't as if MG has skimped on kit either. SE models get automatic LED headlights and rear lights, rear parking sensors, LED tail lamps, 17-inch alloy wheels, adaptive cruise control, automatic climate control, a 7-inch instrument screen, an alarm, and MG iSmart app connectivity. Media connectivity is taken care of by a 10.25-inch colour touchscreen incorporating a 4-speaker DAB audio system and Apple CarPlay Android Auto smartphone mirroring. Is it worth stretching to a top trophy variant like this one? You might well think so. With that, you gain a 2-tone roof, a fancy patterned rear centre light bar, this twin aero rear spoiler, rear privacy glass and power folding mirrors. Inside at trophy level, there's a faux leather interior with an electric driver's seat, heated front seats and a heated steering wheel. plus Bluetooth, satellite navigation, a 360-degree camera, wireless phone charging, and an auto-dipping rear-view mirror. In terms of media stuff, Trophy Spec gets you an improved 6-speaker DAB audio system with 3D sound, plus MG's suite of live services, including weather, live traffic, and access to Amazon Music. Across the range, options are few, but a towing mode is provided so that you can add a tow bar, which isn't possible with every EV in this class. You'll need to pay extra for most of the available paint colours. Choose bright volcano orange paintwork if you really want your MG4 to stand out. What about safety provision? Well, MG cars have taken a huge step forward in that regard in recent years, and this one continues that trend thanks to a very complete suite of MG pilot features. The active emergency braking system has pedestrian and bicycle detection. There's lane keep assist with a lane departure warning system, intelligent speed assist with traffic sign recognition. There's intelligent high beam assist that'll dip your headlights for you at night. There's driver attention alert, that's there to warn you if drowsiness is detected. And even a traffic jam assist system which will effectively drive the car for you at low speeds in congested queues. As you'd expect, the usual front, side and curtain airbags feature too, along with Isofix rear child seat fastenings. This top trophy trim level adds more. Along with adaptive cruise control, there's blind spot detection to stop you dangerously pulling out in front of another vehicle, lane change assist, allowing you to switch lanes with a click of the indicator, door opening warning, alerting occupants about to open their doors in the face of oncoming traffic, and rear cross traffic alert. Now that's there to warn you of oncoming vehicles when you're reversing out of a space. It's all very reassuring. Now earlier we gave you the driving range figures, 218 miles for an SE 51 kilowatt hour model, 281 miles for an SE long range 64 kilowatt hour version, and 270 miles for a trophy 64 kilowatt hour top variant, with the promise of 329 miles for the future 77 kilowatt hour extended range derivative. To give you some perspective on that, we'll tell you that a rival 58 kilowatt hour Volkswagen ID3 manages 265 miles of range, while the 64.8 kilowatt hour battery of a rival Kia Niro EV takes it 285 miles. So MG's right up at the prevailing class standard with these figures. To achieve them, you will of course need regularly to activate the provided eco driving mode and maybe also select the available energy saving mode from the center screen, which moves all of the car systems to their most efficient settings. To eke out battery mileage, you'll also have to get familiar with the regenerative braking modes and regularly use the fiercest strong. MG quotes a combined driving efficiency figure of between 3.6 and 3.8 kilowatt hour and between 4.9 and 5.2 kilowatt hour in town. Now we've been getting up to 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour from this long range model throughout our test, which is very class competitive and works out to an actual real world range of 259 miles. Aerodynamics are key here, of course, hence the importance of the active grille system, which regulates airflow at the front of the car. You'll want to keep an eye on the EV section of the center monitor, badged charging. This initially connects you through to a screen showing available range and percentage battery use. From there, you can switch to an energy consumption display, giving you three options: an energy flow monitor, a circular regen benefit meter showing how much energy you've been harvesting, and an energy consumption graph. As for charging the battery, well, the 64 kilowatt hour long range variant, 61.7 kilowatt hour usable, that most will want equals the same charging speed that you get with a rival Volkswagen ID3, accepting rates of 135 kilowatts. But bear in mind that figure falls to 117 kilowatts with 51 kilowatt hour standard range model, which has 50.8 kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity. Connect up this long-range model to a 150 kilowatt public charger, and that's enough to replenish the battery from 10 to 80% in 35 minutes, 39 minutes for the standard range version. Most of the time, of course, you'll be charging from home using a conventional 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box. The standard range model needs 8 hours, 15 minutes for a full charge. It'll be 10 hours for this long range version. You can preset charging times via the center screen or by using the provided MG iSmart app. You might worry about depreciation from a budget brand like MG. Actually, the opposite is true. Industry experts CAT reckon that this MG4 in volume SE long-range form will retain up to 64.6% of its value after 3 years, which is similar to the return you'd get from premium brands like Tesla, Porsche and Land Rover. Even the top trophy version will retain 61% of its original cost. And if that doesn't convince you, then the comprehensive and transferable 7-year, 80,000 mile warranty just might. Insurance groups start at 27D for the base 51 kilowatt hour SE model. It's 28D for the 64 kilowatt hour SE variant and 29D for this top trophy 64 kilowatt hour MG4. Service plans are available, including full AA roadside assistance and costing from around £6 a month, with repayments spread over 2 to 5 years. Like all zero emissions EVs, it also avoids the London congestion charge, and your benefit in kind taxation will be rated at a super low 2%. Since MG was taken over by the Chinese SAIC conglomerate, the cars it sold have been good value, well equipped and practical, but never desirable or dynamically truly class competitive. All that changes with the MG4. What's really important here is that the basics are right. In fact, this is one of the most surprising cars we've reviewed for ages. All the engineering stuff stacks up, it looks good, and driving range and charging figures are well up to snuff. Yes, throughout this test we've criticised a few detail things, the rather sombre cabin, a few infotainment issues and a lack of cornering feel from the steering rack. But these are the kind of issues a quality European brand could probably fix in a couple of afternoons. And anyway, you'll forget all that when you find that this car costs up to £10,000 less than some of its obvious rivals, is better equipped and comes with a 7-year warranty. After trying an MG4, you may well still decide you want a better-known segment rival. But make no mistake, if you're choosing an EV in this class, try one, you must.